My name is Sienna Mercer. The woman behind the bank counter looked at me, then quietly asked, "Can I ask you something?" I smiled. "Sure." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Is your mother really on vacation?" I frowned. "Of course she is. My brother dropped her at the airport 3 days ago." The manager didn't answer immediately. She simply looked at her computer, then back at me. Finally, she said, "That's strange. Because your mother was standing in this branch yesterday." I felt my stomach drop. I reached for my phone and called my brother. He answered on the first ring. Before I could ask a single question, he said something that made me stop talking altogether. My brother, Grayson Mercer, called on a Tuesday afternoon. "Mom's finally taking a vacation. 3 weeks in Florida." I smiled. "She deserves it." He laughed. "She wants a break from everyone." Something about his voice felt rehearsed, but I let it go. That evening, Grayson sent a picture: a beach chair, a wide-brimmed sun hat, a pair of sunglasses. "No, Mom." Just the caption: "She's finally relaxing." I almost asked why her face wasn't in the picture. Almost. Before hanging up, Grayson added, "Don't call her. She turned her phone off. She wants a digital detox." That wasn't like Mom. She always answered my calls, even on vacation. I told myself not to overthink it. The next morning, I stopped by Mom's bank. We shared a small emergency account for home repairs. I was depositing an insurance reimbursement. Just another ordinary errand. I had no idea. It was about to change everything. The branch manager, Naomi Brooks, recognized me immediately. "Good morning, Sienna." She smiled while opening the account. Then, her smile slowly disappeared. She looked back at her screen. Something wasn't right. Naomi looked at me carefully. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." She lowered her voice. "Is your mother really in Florida?" I frowned. "Yes." "My brother took her to the airport." Naomi didn't answer. She simply stared at me. After a long pause, Naomi quietly said, "That's strange, because your mother was here yesterday." For a second, I thought I'd heard her wrong. Yesterday? That couldn't be possible, unless someone was lying. Naomi couldn't say much more. She simply advised, "You should speak with your mother." I nodded, but deep down, I already knew that wasn't going to be easy. I walked outside and called Mom, straight to voicemail. I called again. Same result. Then a third time. Nothing. She had never ignored 3 calls from me. Never. I called Grayson next. He answered immediately. Before I could ask about the bank, he said, "Don't start worrying, Sienna. Mom's fine." I hadn't even mentioned Mom yet. That's when I realized he already knew what I was about to ask. I asked, "Why did the bank manager say Mom was there yesterday?" Grayson didn't hesitate. "They must have mixed her up with someone else." His answer came too quickly. Before I could ask another question, he ended the call. That wasn't like him. I searched for the Florida resort he'd mentioned. Then I called the front desk. "Do you have an Evelyn Mercer staying there?" The receptionist checked. "I'm sorry. We don't have anyone by that name." My heart started racing. I called Grayson again. "The reservation's under a friend's name." Mom wanted privacy. "Who's the friend?" Silence. Then he changed the subject. He still hadn't answered my question. I drove straight to Mom's house. The curtains were closed. The driveway looked empty. But when I peeked into the garage, her car was still there. She couldn't be in Florida without it. Something was very wrong. Newspapers sat on the porch. Mail overflowed from the mailbox. Mom never let mail pile up. Not even for one day. She was too organized. Which meant she hadn't planned any vacation. I walked to the front door, then entered my security code. The keypad beeped. Access denied. I tried again. Same message. Someone had removed my access, and I had a feeling who. Just then, our longtime neighbor, Elena Morales, walked over. "Sienna, I've been hoping you'd come." My stomach tightened. What happened? She looked toward Mom's house. "Your mother never went to Florida." Mrs. Morales lowered her voice. 2 nights ago, I saw Grayson helping your mom into his SUV. She wasn't carrying luggage. She looked confused. Then she added, he came back alone. That changed everything. Mrs. Morales pointed toward the garage. After he came back, he loaded several boxes into his truck. What kind of boxes? File boxes. The kind people keep important papers in. Financial records. Mom always kept those in her office. Before leaving, I checked Mom's home answering machine. There was one unheard message. Hello, Ms. Mercer? This is Silver Pines Transportation calling to confirm tomorrow's pickup. Pickup? Mom never mentioned going anywhere. I wrote down the number. I had a feeling it would lead me straight to her. I called the transportation company. The dispatcher checked the schedule. Yes. We dropped Ms. Evelyn Mercer at Silver Pines Assisted Living yesterday. My heart sank. Mom wasn't in Florida. She was 40 minutes away. I drove straight to Silver Pines. The receptionist looked up Mom's name, then frowned. I'm sorry. You're not on the approved visitor list. I stared at her. What list? She turned the screen slightly. Only one family member was approved. Grayson. The receptionist apologized. Your brother said family visits upset your mother. I couldn't believe it. Grayson hadn't just hidden Mom. He'd rewritten our relationship, and strangers believed him. The facility director, Monica Hale, came to speak with me. She remained professional. If your mother wants to see you, we'll honor her decision. That gave me hope, because one person still had a voice. Mom. A nurse walked down the hallway. A few moments later, Mom appeared. The second she saw me, she burst into tears. Sienna, I thought you knew where I was. I hugged her tightly. I've been looking everywhere. Mom held my hands tightly. Grayson told me that you agreed this was best. I couldn't speak. Then I quietly answered, Mom, I never knew you were here. She looked completely shocked. One lie had separated us both. Mom lowered her voice. Grayson said I needed to move my money. He said my accounts weren't safe anymore. I asked, did you want to close them? She slowly shook her head. I just trusted him. That answer broke my heart. Mom opened her purse. Inside was a folder. Several papers were highlighted. I didn't understand everything I signed. One document had blank spaces filled in later. Even Monica noticed. She quietly asked for copies. Mom took a deep breath. Grayson kept asking me to help his business. I said no. He asked again and again. Only then did I realize this had never been about protecting Mom. It was about protecting himself. Before leaving, Monica asked Mom one question. Mrs. Mercer, where would you like to go? Mom looked at me, then smiled through tears. I want to go home with my daughter. For the first time in days, Grayson wasn't the one making decisions. Instead of driving home, Mom and I went straight to elder law attorney Avery Sinclair. I wasn't taking chances anymore. We needed facts, not family opinions. Avery carefully reviewed every paper Mom had signed. Then she looked up. These forms don't give your son full financial control. He used them far beyond their purpose. Mom slowly shook her head. I never agreed to that. Before we left the office, attorney Avery Sinclair didn't call the bank to argue. Instead, she requested an emergency elder financial review under the bank's senior protection procedures. Naomi Brooks immediately flagged every pending transaction for independent verification. Nothing could move until my mother personally confirmed it. For the first time, the system was protecting Mom instead of trusting someone else's word. Mom suddenly remembered something. I mailed copies of important papers to my safe deposit box. We drove to the bank. Inside were account statements, old letters, and copies of every document she'd signed. Mom had unknowingly saved her own case. That afternoon, my phone rang. Grayson. For the first time. He sounded nervous. Where's Mom? I calmly answered, somewhere safe. Then I hung up. He no longer controlled the conversation. Minutes later, Our family group chat exploded. Grayson wrote, "Sienna is confusing Mom. She's making everything worse." I didn't reply. Instead, I saved every message. Evidence speaks louder than arguments. If you've ever let the facts speak instead of your emotions, comment, "Let the truth speak." That evening, Mom made her own phone call. She told the bank, "I revoke every authorization I gave Grayson." Then she called her doctor. She updated every emergency contact. For the first time in months, she sounded confident. The next morning, Grayson demanded a family meeting. He wrote, "We're settling this tonight." I simply replied, "Okay." He thought he was calling the meeting. He had no idea. Mom would be leading it. That evening, everyone gathered around Mom's dining room table. Mom quietly opened her folder herself. One by one, she placed the bank notices, the assisted living paperwork, the visitor records, and finally, the beach photo in front of everyone. Then she looked at Grayson. "You told everyone I was in Florida." When I was sitting alone in a facility, nobody interrupted. Nobody defended him. Because this time, Mom was telling her own story. Grayson finally spoke. "You're making this sound worse than it was." Mom looked at him, then explain it. He glanced at the beach photo. "I just needed more time." "Time for what?" Mom asked. He stayed silent. No one needed an answer. He'd needed time to move Mom's money before anyone started asking questions. Mom quietly handed everyone a copy. Bank records, facility paperwork, authorization forms. Nobody argued. Nobody asked questions. The truth was already on the pages. Grayson looked down. For the first time, he had nothing left to deny. Mom looked directly at Grayson, then calmly said, "You were supposed to protect me. Instead, you tried to control me." She slid one envelope across the table. Inside was the revocation of every financial authorization. His access ended that day. A week later, Naomi from the bank called. The attempted transfer had been officially canceled. The newly opened account had been restricted pending review. Additional security had been added to Mom's remaining accounts. Her savings never left her control. For the first time, she finally felt safe again. If you've ever seen someone protect a parent instead of taking advantage of them, comment "Family protects." A few days later, I learned why Grayson was desperate. His contracting business wasn't struggling, it was collapsing. Payroll taxes were overdue, credit cards were maxed out. Mom's retirement savings had been his backup plan. Grayson came to Mom's house alone. "I'll pay everything back. I just need one chance." Mom listened quietly, then picked up the old beach photo, the same one he'd used to fool everyone. She placed it in front of him. Neither of us said a word. Finally, Mom broke the silence. "You told everyone I was relaxing. When I was frightened, you didn't just lie to them. You lied to me." Grayson lowered his head. There was nothing left to defend. Several months later, Mom sold the large family house, not because anyone forced her, because she wanted a simpler life. She moved into a beautiful, independent living community, only 10 minutes from my home. This time, the decision was hers. Mom updated everything: her will, her emergency contacts, her financial records. A professional fiduciary now handled major transactions. I became her backup contact, not her controller, exactly the way she wanted. Months later, Grayson stopped by. He quietly asked Mom for another loan. She smiled sadly, then slid the old beach photo across the table. "I don't lend money to people who first try to steal my peace." He left without another word. People still ask when I realized my brother was lying. Honestly, it wasn't when the bank manager questioned me. It was when I realized someone had convinced my own mother that I had stopped looking for her. He thought hiding her would silence her voice. Instead, it reminded her exactly who came searching. My brother said Mom was on vacation. The truth was, she was waiting for someone to find her, and I'll never stop being grateful that I did.